X. As a matter of fact, the jury were quite right. In company with a lady who shall be nameless, I did do it. At least, at one time I thought I did. Only we have proved so often that somebody else did it, we have shown so conclusively that we can have done it, that we find ourselves wondering if we really did. Perhaps we didn't. If we did, we apologize to all concerned except, of course, to Mr. Winthrop. I suspect him. The grasshopper. The animal kingdom may be divided into creatures which one can feed, and creatures which one cannot feed. Animals which one cannot feed are nearly always unsatisfactory, and the grasshopper is no exception. Anyone who has tried feeding a grasshopper will agree with me. Yet he is one of the most interesting of British creatures. The Encyclopedia Britannica is as terse and simple as ever about him. Degree grasshoppers, plus or minus, it says, degree are specially remarkable for their saltatory powers, due to the great development of the hind legs, and also for their stridulation, which is not always an attribute of the male only. Plus or minus. To translate, grasshoppers have a habit of hopping, degree saltatory powers, plus or minus, and chirping, degree stridulation, plus or minus. It is commonly supposed that the grasshopper stridulates by rubbing his back legs together, but this is not the case. For one thing, I have tried it myself and failed to make any kind of noise, and for another, after exhaustive observations, I have established the fact that, though he does move his back legs every time he stridulates, his back legs do not touch each other. Now it is a law of friction that you cannot have friction between two back legs if the back legs are not touching. In other words, the grasshopper does not rub his legs together to produce stridulation, or, to put it quite shortly, he does not rub his back legs together at all. I hope I have made this point quite clear. If not, a more detailed treatment will be found in the paper which I read to the Royal Society in 1912. Nevertheless, I have always felt that there was something fishy about the grasshopper's back legs. I mean, why should he wave his legs about when he is stridulating? My own theory is that it is purely due to the nervous excitement produced by the act of singing. The same phenomena can be observed in many singers and public speakers. I do not think myself that we need seek for a more elaborate hypothesis. The Encyclopedia Britannica of course, says that degree the stridulation or song in the acridid is produced by friction of the hind legs against portions of the wings or wing covers, plus or minus, but that is just the sort of statement which the scientific man thinks he can pass off on the public with impunity. Considering that stridulation takes place about every 10 seconds, I calculate that the grasshopper must require a new set of wings every 10 days. It would be more in keeping with the traditions of our public life if the scientific man simply confessed that he was baffled by this problem of the grasshopper's back legs. Yet, as I have said, if a public speaker may fidget with his back legs while he is stridulating, why not a public grasshopper? The more I see of science, the more it strikes me as one large mystification. But I ought to have mentioned that degree the acridid have the auditory organs on the first abdominal segment, plus or minus, while degree the locusted have the auditory organ on the tibia of the first leg. Plus or minus, in other words, one kind of grasshopper hears with its stomach and the other kind listens with its leg. When a scientific man has committed himself to that kind of statement, he would hardly have qualms about a little invention like the back legs legend. With this scientific preliminary, we now come to the really intriguing part of our subject, and that is the place of the grasshopper in modern politics. And the first question is, why did Mr. Lloyd George call Lord Northcliffe a grasshopper? I think it was in a speech about Russia that Mr. Lloyd George said, in terms, that Lord Northcliffe was a grasshopper. And he didn't leave it at that. He said that Lord Northcliffe was not only a grasshopper but a something. Grasshopper, grashopping here and grashopping there, you know, the sort of thing. There was nothing much in the accusation, of course. And Lord Northcliffe made no reply at the time. In fact, so far as I know, he has never publicly stated that he is not a grasshopper. For all we know, it may be true. But I know a man whose wife's sister was in service at a place where there was a kitchen maid whose young man was once a gardener at Lord Northcliffe's, and this man told me that Lord Northcliffe took it to heart terribly. No grasshoppers were allowed in the garden from that day forth, no green that was at all like grasshopper green was tolerated in the house. And the gardener used to come upon his lordship muttering in the west walk, degree a grasshopper. He called me a grasshopper, a grasshopper, plus or minus. The gardener said that his lordship used to finish up with, degree _I_LL. Teach him plus or minus, but that is hardly the kind of thing a lord would say, and I don't believe it. In fact, I don't believe any of it. It is a stupid story. But this crisis we keep having with France owing to Mr. Lloyd George's infamous conduct does make the story interesting. The suggestion is, you see, that Lord Northcliffe lay low for a long time, till everybody had forgotten about the grasshopper, and Mr. Lloyd George thought that Lord Northcliffe had forgotten about the grasshopper, and then, when Mr. Lloyd George was in a hole, Lord Northcliffe said, degree _now we LL. See if I am a grasshopper or not, plus or minus, and started stridulating at high speed about Mr. Lloyd George. A crude suggestion. But if it were true, it would mean that the grasshopper had become a figure of national and international importance. It is wonderful to think that we might stop being friends with France just because of a grasshopper, and, if Lord Northcliffe arranged for a new government to come in, it might very well be called degree the grasshopper government. Plus or minus, that would look fine in the margins of the history books. Yes, it is all very degree dramatic. Plus or minus, it is exciting to think of an English lord nursing a grievance about a grasshopper for months and months. Seeing grasshoppers in every corner, dreaming about grasshoppers. But we must not waste time over the fantastic tale. We have not yet solved our principal problem. Why did Mr. Lloyd George call him a grasshopper, a modest, friendly little grasshopper? Did he mean to suggest that Lord Northcliffe hears with his stomach or stridulates with his back legs? Why not an earwig, or a black beetle, or a woodlouse, or a centipede? There are lots of insects more offensive than the grasshopper, and personally I would much rather be called a grasshopper than an earwig, which gets into people's sponges and frightens them to death. Perhaps he had been reading that nice passage in the prophet Nahum. Degree thy captains are as the great grasshoppers, which camp in the hedges in the cold day, but when the sun ariseth, they flee away, and their place is not known where they are, plus or minus, or the one in Ecclesiastes, degree and the grasshopper shall be a burden. Plus or minus, I do not know. On the other hand, the underscore in Cyclopedia underscore has a suggestive sentence, degree all grasshoppers are vegetable feeders and have an incomplete metamorphosis, so that underscore their destructive powers are continuous from the moment of emergence from the egg until death. Plus or minus. Little Bits of London.